Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division for the Snow City 9-hole cup here in Golf Clash the game. I'm playing Pro and Expert here for you all, and this is a playthrough with all the videos put together for you to get you the best possible prep before the 9-hole cup starts. Before we start though, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. If you do want to get the ultimate tournament guides we will be doing for Master for all our Patreons, so make sure to get any of our packages, doesn't matter what level, you will receive the qualifying round guide. And then we do have the final round guide for Master, which will be for those patrons that do have the ultimate tournament guides. Patreon.com/GolfClashTommy, link in the description down below. And obviously we don't just have the tournament guide packages, we also have tour guides and everything else. You know, you just take a look and see what suits you and your game. Info box on the right hand side to follow along in this playthrough to see what club I do suggest, what ball I do suggest, and also what elevation and club distance I do suggest for the specific shots. Make sure to listen to my explanations because, you know, even if you watch the video, I do talk a lot about what's good, what's bad, and also possible other routes that I might not have videos for. Make sure to comment in the comment section below if you do have any questions. Let's go to hole number one. Hole number one is going to be one of the tougher par 4s there is in game, and look at it. You can see how bumpy it is, you can see how many bunkers there is. There isn't really much room for error. Use as much side spin to the left possible, combined with, in this wind angle, somewhere between 2 to 4 bars of topspin. If you do have a headwind, I would recommend to go up to around 6 bars of topspin, and in tailwind, we can reduce to go with 1 to 2 bars of topspin if we're not going to send it, which I can talk about at the end of this video. Some curl to the left, which kind of makes the Apocalypse be the best club to use, especially if the wind is left to right, where we do need to go with a decent amount of curl. Second shot is going to be with our sniper, if we are obviously on the fairway after we have been taking our drive. Do a double bounce up towards the green, and you can see here now that I'm trying to align the tip of the ball guideline with the pin, and this is obviously a good thing with the sniper, as the sniper does have a good ball guideline, and we can measure our adjustment in a much better way than if we would be having a Guardian or a Cataclysm or something like that. Adjustment for the second shot is no elevation and it's true distance. When it comes to the drive, it's gonna be maximum distance plus 10. I'm playing with a Kingmaker here mainly due to having the 3 bars of side spin on the drive, as I do think that is a very valuable attribute to use. So if we do have a tailwind of T, meaning more tailwind than what we do have crosswind, there is a possibility to go full blast down the fairway by using a lot of curl, trying to somewhat cut the corner and remove the bunkers from play. Obviously you're going to have to hit the fairway with the first bounce, otherwise it's kind of like crap, but that is a possibility if we do have a tailwind. A Berserker ball such as a Power 5 ball would definitely be the best ball to use in a scenario like that. Obviously there is power hooks as well, but you know, this is kind of the main way of playing this hole because it's gonna be possible to be applied in every type of wind. But once again, if you do have a tailwind, you can take that risk or chance, whatever you would like to call it. So hole number one, very tough to get an eagle, and birdie is definitely going to be the general score on everyone's scorecard. For hole number two, when we do have any wind here, we're gonna lay up, and I'm gonna explain why we're not gonna try to go over the rough, or I'm gonna try to explain in what scenario you can go over the rough and which ones you cannot. But again, the main way of playing is to play with a quarterback or with the rock to give you some accuracy, to give you some ball guideline, to make sure that we're gonna stay before the rough at the top, so we can use whatever topspin that gets us as close to the rough line possible. It's gonna be all from 2 to 6 bars of topspin. And what I would like to say is that if you do have a direct headwind, maybe playing with the rock or quarterback might not be the best way, as you would then go in between clubs and you will have to go with a lot of overpowers and then an extra mile Thor's Hammer or an Apocalypse would be the best club to use. But otherwise, my structure is the following. In Tailwind or in Direct Crosswind, I'm using the Quarterback. Otherwise, I use the Rock with a slight headwind together with Crosswind. If I do have a direct headwind, then I use, once again, Apoc, Thor's Hammer, or the Extra Mile. Second shot is just gonna be to transport the ball up to the top right of the fairway. It looks very narrow, and you know, obviously a bad second shot, like a double great left, double great right, is gonna be a problem with that. So that's the reason then why I'm actually going even more conservative with this shot, meaning that I'm gonna put myself just before the bunker instead of trying to go in between the bunker and the rough on the right hand side, because going in between the bunker and the rough on the right hand side is generally the way that I've been playing this hole before, but that's to be taking a big risk, as I've already explained. Now for the third shot, we are going to then change here in the video, and we're going to take a look at what we're gonna do here from this spot, and it's gonna be a rough bump. And this rough bump here has an absolute massive funnel, and this could obviously be played in many different type of ways, but I'm playing this one minus 25% elevation, and I'm trying to play it through distance numbers. And I'm gonna keep the max there for you to see, because we're gonna be fairly close to max line here with the Thorn. So alright, getting it up here with the Thorn, you can see here that we're actually getting a little bit higher up than, a little bit shorter than I was expecting, so we're changing to a long iron instead. And you can see here now that I'm trying to get the ball guideline up towards the left side of the green. But look at this funnel here now when wiggling around. You can see it's not really moving from the hole. You can see I'm moving basically a ring left and a ring right, and the ball guideline keeps being in that same spot. And that's something we truly need to look for when we play this type of shot, because it gives you some room for error. Minus 25% elevation, and here we're close to minimum distance, not maximum distance, which would have been with our short iron. It rolls up the green, falls down towards the pin, and we're getting ourselves an eagle on this very tough par 5. So before we moving on to hole number 3, let's talk about in Tailwind if we can clear the rough or not. When we play with an Apocalypse level 7 or level 8, there is definitely a possibility to get with a Thor's Hammer level 7 and level 8, as it has the topspin, to bounce into the rough and roll out using any form of power 4 or power 5 ball. If we don't have a club like that, then we're going to have to play with a ball that do have some topspin boosts, such as a palm ball. You know, we do a face-off ball, we do an owl ball. There is many different type of topspin boost balls, and then we can play with a slight lower level drivers as well. But that's only if we do have more tailwind than we have any other wind. So the layup is the general way of playing, but in tailwind it definitely opens up an opportunity to go directly over the rough or go into the rough to roll out and then have the second shot directly up towards the green. But once again, it's going to be dependent on if you have tailwind on drive or not. For hole number 3, the first of the par 3s, 3.2 topspin, 3 right spin. We're aiming for a rough bump here. So top of the red ring by the rough line with the ball guideline going towards the hole. Even though it looks like a very glitchy spot, it's definitely coming down in a nice way. The Grizzly or the B52 is the club to use here due to its very good ball guideline. With the Goliath, we're gonna have to obviously adjust in, being somewhat blind, as we don't have a good ball guideline and then it won't show on the green. Adjustment here is maximum distance plus 10, and then we center the ball and hit perfect. And hitting the rough here is going to be no problem. Obviously the hole in one here is definitely not going to be a gimme, but it's a good chance. And the reason I'm aiming for a rough bump here instead of bouncing on the fairway is because bouncing on that fairway is very weird, especially in some wind angles where the ball is gonna be pushed either pretty hard left or pretty hard right, depending on where we are bouncing. The rough bump removes some of the bounces and gives us a much more consistent result, and that is much easier than to tweak and get ourselves a consistently better chance for an hole-in-one. So on the drive here, we're gonna play with a tailwind, and then you might think that the best way would be trying to send it to green. I disagree strongly, and I will explain why in the end of the video. 3 topspin, and I'm using 1 bar of right spin too. I'm using the driver that gives me the most power, which is my Apocalypse level 7. You can obviously play this shot with many other types of drivers and applying the same type of idea of a play. Extra Mile Thor's Hammer does still have a good amount of power. Adjustment is max plus 10, and then we hit perfect. The ball will bounce on the fairway over the rough and not gonna clip the tree. And you know, even though we're close to the rough line here, we're still gonna be safe. What we can do is to add an extra bar of right spin to make sure that we're not rolling into that rough with a great left. Now for the second shot, it's gonna be our short iron towards the pin. If we come so close to the rough as we did on the drive, we're gonna be very close to minimum distance of our club. I'm putting medium distance in the info box, just as the distance towards the pin will vary massively depending on where you are, as it's not a linear hole. What I'm looking for here now is this funnel. You can see there that I was moving my target left and right, and the ball guideline is still stuck at a hole. And that gives me room for error, as we talked about on hole number 2 on the third shot, and then obviously we're gonna continue to look for that. Now true distance, no elevation, is what we're using here. True distance means once again that you're checking where maximum distance are, where is minimum distance, and judge your club distance based on that. Gets into the funnel, rolls right at pin for a beautiful eagle here on hole number 4. What I would say though is that hole number 4 is probably, when it comes to the City Park, the hole that you kind of need to drop all the time if you're gonna have a chance to win in the 9-hole cup. But in the end, the drive is somewhat key. Get the ball over to the fairway and have an easy chance with the short iron. So, as I said in the beginning, I should talk about why we shouldn't send this one. It's because laying up for a short iron into that funnel is such a good chance for an eagle, where a send it is gonna be very, very tough to get that ball to stay on fairway or on green. You're gonna most likely be in rough, or you're gonna be in sand, which is decreasing the possibility of an eagle massively. So in my opinion, laying up here is the best way to go. Sure, you can send it if you would like, but as I said, going into the rough or sand will definitely be much more likely than be on green. And also, don't forget about all the water that is around the course. So if you are just a bit wrong there too, you might go out of bounds. So for hole number 5, the second of the par 3s, we're gonna start in complete minimum distance with whatever power 5 ball we may have. Pack the Grizzly as well, as the Grizzly will make sure that we find minimum distance line in a much easier way. 1.3 left spin and 0.2 bars of top backspin. Adjustment is going to be 1-1, which is medium distance plus 10%. And you can see that I'm playing with a Centurion, which is a power 3 ball and gives me a wind resistance 4, but you can play this shot with a Kingmaker as well, or you can play with less wind resistance also, but I think there is value keeping the wind between 6 and 8 miles per hour. Bouncing into the rough, rolls up there, and even though it doesn't show, there is a pretty big funnel on the top right of the green that gets the ball towards the hole for a nice little hole-in-one. If we do have a tailwind, you can still play the rough bump. You're gonna have to play with a long iron, or you back up and play with a Grizzly on the fairway further down, which also has a good chance for a hole-in-one. I would say this hole here, combined with hole number 7, is definitely 2 really good chances for an hole-in-one. For hole number 6, it's important to use the driver with the most possible topspin. And you can see me now playing with 6 bars of topspin, trying to just replicate a situation where we are playing with an Extra Mile or a Thor's Hammer or a lower level Apocalypse that doesn't have more than 6 bars of topspin. Adjustment is maximum distance plus 20. I'm using outside wall ball of curl to the right And you can see here that I'm bouncing on the fairway over to the other one, trying to gain as much distance possible. The further down we are, the better it's gonna be. And here we could definitely use as much topspin we have on Apocalypse level 7. I'm also using a power 4 ball to make sure that I will be having the power enough to not have to go with that much of overpower on the second shot. So I'm trying to back up a little bit, using a little bit less backspin than I would originally want, but I do kind of judge here that that's gonna be better than trying to go with max overpower and more backspin. It's tough enough to hit perfect on a wood club, and the thing is though, even if the Albatross is an opportunity here, I would see that as a very unlikely thing to happen, and therefore playing it safer and taking less risk on the approach is definitely what comes to mind in my book, at least. Obviously you decide what you want to do. I play minus 5% elevation and it's true distance, so if it's medium distance then it's medium distance, if it's maximum distance it's maximum distance. You're gonna have to judge that yourself. If there is a tailwind from tee, you have heard me saying that already a couple times in this video, then you can blast the ball down the fairway, and I would honestly say that that would be the best way, if so, to play it. And the reason for that is that this shot is such a small chance for an Albatross, and it's going to be a tough one with the drive and the second shot. But then with Ascended, you could be lucky to be around the green, and then you could have a simple Albatross. Obviously, you can get stuck into the rough or sand, but then the tailwind will get you close to green and you can save the eagle anyway. So it's kind of a risk-free way of playing. Unfortunately, I have no video, but I just wanted to explain my thought process if I would be having more or less a straight tailwind. Hole number 7 is going to be a very good chance for an hole-in-one if you have the possibility to play with the Guardian level 7 or better. Max backspin, I'm using half a bar of side spin to the right. And you can see here now that I'm looking to have the red ring by the rough line, but most importantly, the ball guideline and the second bounce should be your biggest focus points. Medium distance, no elevation is what we're using here, and obviously the adjustment and the setup will be different depending on what type of wind angle you have off tee, because right to left wind will act differently than a left to right wind, for an example. But the idea will be the same. We bounce, and get the backspin to make the ball stop and catch that groove that is behind the pin to roll the ball into the hole. And the reason Guardian is the club to play here is because the Sniper or any other wood club does not have the backspin enough for this type of shot. But for those that do remember this hole from earlier tournaments, knows how money a Guardian shot is on this particular hole. But again, it's wind angle dependent, and we're gonna have to change, both adjust and might spin to adapt for that. I'm also using a little bit of curl here to push the ball right, so we're not gonna miss left. That's also something that could come in play depending on what wind angle we have. But hole number 7, regardless what wind angle, is gonna be a good chance for an hole-in-one. So option 1 on hole number 8 is an older video, and you will therefore see the older type of spin, but I'm gonna explain it as it would be the newer type of spin in the game. 3 bars of top spin and then 3 bars of side spin to the left, and we're going to then aim for the ball guideline to be approximately a ring left of the bunker, trying to point down the fairway. Adjustment is going to be maximum distance plus a 10. And once again, the goal for us is to stay away from the rough and the sand. If we do have a straight tailwind of tee, you will see in option number 2, which will follow after option number 1, how we can get this ball very close to the green and then a simple eagle. So obviously, if you have to lay up like this, this is going to be a tough eagle to get, but it's going to be a possible one regardless. So we're getting the ball down the fairway, 334 yards. Second shot, once again, have in mind that this is an old video and it's an older type of spin. And so we're looking for that sticky spot on the fairway. And you can see here now that I'm looking, and finally I'm deciding for a spot. And here I'm using slightly more than 1 bar of right spin together with 2 bars of topspin. The side spin and the topspin will vary depending on if you find where you find that sticky spot, and also with the distance of your drive. No elevation, and it's true distance. So true distance means, once again, you move up to max, you move down to minimum, and then judge your club distance from there. Katana ball is the only thing that is needed on this approach and this hole when we do lay up, as it does have the side spin, which is, in my opinion, the key attribute here. The camera does the trick here. It shows us that it's going to be close and we're getting it right at pin for an eagle. Once again, have in mind that it's an older video just to demonstrate how to play this hole, and as I didn't explain the old spin, the old side spin, I did explain it in a new side spin, so pay close attention to that. Now let's go to option number 2 and take a look in how we should attack this hole if we do have a tailwind. For option number 2, we do have a video for you what we're gonna do if we do have more or less a straight tailwind. You can see them stretching out to absolute max to find the bullseye, to be by that rough line in between the darker and the brighter rough. Then we release the target, adjust max plus 10, and I'm using 2 bars of right spin and 6 bars of top spin. The reason I'm using 6 bars of topspin is to demonstrate that this is a possibility to play even with lower level Apocalypse. But I would say that the Apocalypse is the club to use here, as we do want and need to go with a 1.5 ball of curl to the right. Max overpower, the ball bounces on fairway and it rolls in between the 2 rocks there, and have in mind that those rocks is somewhat not getting the ball, it's not stopping the ball is what I'm trying to say. So it's gonna roll past, we're gonna go up to around 480 yards. And from there, we're gonna not play the drive again, obviously, that it doesn't make sense at all. We're gonna play a wedge towards the pin. And here we're gonna play a classic EB School version if we do not have a glitchy ball guideline. If we do have a glitchy ball guideline, I would back up a little bit and use a little bit of topspin and still try to play EB School, but might then decrease the elevation just slightly. So a regular EB School with no spin plays 20% elevation. If we would be using topspin, I would judge that to be 10% elevation that we should be playing with EB School. And Endbringer is the club for me. You can play with other wedges if you would like. In the end though, when we are in a situation like this, this is an absolute must eagle. So this is the tailwind route demonstrated for you all. Obviously, if we do not have tailwind, we have to lay up as in option number 1, which also will offer us a chance for an eagle. So hole number 8 is definitely a good chance regardless what wind angle we're gonna get. On hole number 9, we're gonna play down the right hand side. That's very important to get the ball down there, as if you do have to play up to the left, the albatross possibility is somewhat gone. I'm using 3 bars of right spin, and the top spin will vary depending on what wind angle we have. It's going to be all from 2 bars of top spin, all from 1 bar of top spin up to 5 or 6 bars of top spin if we would be having a headwind. Adjust max plus 5, and we're going to use some curl to push the ball down the fairway, and this is a perfect roll down towards 350 yards, which is the target of yardage, or our yardage target, or whatever. So here I'm using a fringe shake just to give myself a reference. Unfortunately, that reference isn't really spot on as we're not dropping it, but the idea here to give ourselves a reference with a fringe shake or a pin shake or whatever is definitely something we need to have if we're gonna be consistently dropping this hole. 4 bars of backspin ball guideline to aim short of pin when we do have a tailwind, as the tailwind will push the ball and roll longer than what the ball guidelines show. Minus 10% elevation as we're playing this shot uphill, so therefore the ball will be less affected by the wind than normal. Bounce on the fairway, gets over, speed is good, but we just barely miss on the right hand side. Hole number 9 is definitely a possibility for an albatross, and I would say hole number 2 and hole number 6 is definitely 2 par 5s where the albatross will be super duper rare. So it's actually nice to end up playing a hole where an albatross will be actually a decent chance. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various wind here for the upcoming 9-hole cup. the Snow City 9-hole cup, a full 9 of the city park. Make sure that you pay attention to that I'm using older videos, which is only to demonstrate the best possible play on the city parks, as we have been playing these holes for many times, and there is definitely some money play including in that. You can go to patreon.com/golfclashtommy to get our ultimate tournament guide package. Anyone that do have a Patreon package for the 9-hole cup will receive the qualifying round guides for Master, as Master is the only division we will be doing a qualifying round and a final round guide for. So make sure to get yourself a package if your idea is to test out the water in Master division, especially with the much easier cut line now. It's going to be much easier to get to the final round. You can also prepare yourself and get yourself the expert package to be ready for the upcoming tournament that will be held over the Christmas week, which we will obviously make a tournament guide for. Yes, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching once again, and a massive good luck in your Golf Clash game.